Today on Adjusting, we are talking about one of the most quietly devastating cognitive distortions out there, labeling. Mm. Yeah, this was an emotional episode, by the way. But if you are someone who is quick to label themselves as an imposter or a failure or you're awkward or I'm unworthy or I'm unlovable, have a seat. This episode is for you. We are going to address labeling, what it is, how it shows up in the body, who deals with it, when did it start. We're going to adjust the way we deal with it, the way imposter syndrome shows up, reclaim our worth, and then we're going to apply some helpful tools so that we can chip away at that glass box that we've put ourselves in under the label of being unworthy. We're going to do away with shame and lay it down. So grab your notebook, grab your coffee, or whatever you need, and welcome to Adjusting. And we're back with another episode of Adjusting Podcast with your host, Justin G. Nelson. I feel like this episode might be the Mount Rushmore of episodes because I have a lot to say. And I'm really happy that in my discovery of cognitive distortions and the different types, that this one actually makes sense. And a lot of people do it. And a lot of people do it sometimes to justify their piss poor behavior. Yeah. So we're talking about labeling. Okay. But before I jump off into the deep end, welcome back. Thank you all for really tapping into the first 6 episodes of this season. Like, we're really doing some work. It was hard to really flesh out the difference between the various cognitive distortions we've talked about because they, in a way, sound the same, but they show up in different ways and they just fit different people differently. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for being open-minded to learning more about this topic of things. We'll get back to more specialized or specific topics as the season progresses. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to finishing up this series with cognitive distortions. But before we get any further, thanks to TJ with TJ podcast. Really support him and what he's doing there. I think he has like 2 other podcasts that are about to come out. I don't know how he's doing it. I can barely do this one. And then be sure to follow me on Substack as well. Pacific Cup Studio is really growing. I don't know if you saw in like the intro video, the little water, then the lung. That's my company. So I'm really trying to grow and put more attention there. The website is made. I just need to wait to launch it because I have to get some more other things in line. But other than that, thank you all. Thank you. And to Diana, thank you. She sent me a donation. I was here like, it was like my first Cash App thing I got for my podcast. Listen, if you are blessed, you can send your tithes and offerings. I'll use it because this is expensive. I was doing my budget and it was just like, what is all this like Wix and Riverside and Claude and all these things? Like, what are all these things you're using? I was just like, as a business owner, I have to use a lot of stuff. Okay. And when it comes to doing my clips and things, I have to use Riverside for that. When it comes to making captions and figuring out scheduling and like how to make things flow, I use my Claude for that. It's a lot. So thank you for the donation. So if you are new here, we do a grounding breathing exercise just to calm our nerves and to center us for the episode, to open our heart chakras and our throat chakra in order for us to receive and be able to speak our truth. You know, we're all about speaking our truth. But if you're driving, Focus on the road. And some of y'all do be driving and listening. So I'm wondering, like, do y'all be skipping the breathing part? Or y'all be like, with y'all eyes open? But if you're not, if you're driving, focus on the road. If you're home, find somewhere to sit, ground your feet, turn off the noise. Okay. Close your eyes. Plant your feet flat on the ground. And really just breathe through your knees. Relax your shins, relax your thighs, relax your hips, your stomach, move up, relax your heart, your chest, your shoulders, your neck, your chin, your face. Relax your nose, relax your forehead, close your eyes. And we're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and release for 8. Okay? So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let it all out. Okay. And the next one, we're just going to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, just to get anything else that's stored in there out. Okay. So breathe in and out. All right, so let's get into this episode. All right, so today, again, we're talking about the cognitive distortion of labeling. Simply put, you make whatever catastrophic thing that has happened your persona. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. I'm joking. But labeling is when you take a single event, behavior, or feeling and use it as the basis of your personality. So if you had an audition and you didn't get it, you quickly label yourself as an untalented artist. Okay. If you went to a job interview and you didn't get it, you label yourself as an unprofessional person and you'll forever be broke. All right. If you had an emotional conversation, I'm too sensitive. I said the wrong thing. I'm a terrible person. So you move really quick. One event, one word, one personality trait. We had to shift that because, again, your words have power. Okay, we know that. And what you think about yourself, your neuroplasticity and everything, it makes it real. One instance does not determine who you are. And we do this to other people too. This is where I was wanting to jump straight to. They forgot to text me back. They're selfish. They disagree with me. She's toxic. Labeling. Okay. Write this down. Labeling collapses complexity into a single story. Justin, what do you mean? Gone are the days of healthy conversations. Also, people make their negative, piss poor behavior their personality trait and they label themselves as, or they say the cliche phrase of that's just who I am. No. That's just who you want me to think of you as. Just because you lack the emotional maturity to do the work and get to the root of what it is that has created this false persona of who you claim to be, that's not my problem. Okay? And I refuse to let people who are nasty, rude, selfish, immature, dismissive, to walk around as if that is okay. Send them this episode. Okay? And let them know we can sit down and talk about it. Because somebody hurt you and you're not going to go around hurting other people and say, that's just who I am. No, that's who you want me to think of you as. We're not doing it. So listen to this episode. So the core problem is label feels like facts. But they're narratives, and narratives can be changed. Once you accept a label is true, good or bad, okay, you start collecting evidence for it and ignoring everything that contradicts it. Yeah. So that's confirmation bias at work. You stop seeing your behavior as something you did and start seeing it as something you are, and that kills your sense of agency. So the real danger becomes labels become self fulfilling. If you believe you're bad with money, you stop trying to budget because you just like, I'm just bad with money. So what's the point of me making a budget? I was like that, okay? But then I had a goal. And I said, the only way for me to get this goal and for me to get my new computer, my new phone, is for me to grow up and become good with money. Okay? So now I cook more at home. Clap. But if you believe you're not creative, you stop making things. You allow that one negative thing. You think, oh, I went on one bad date. I'm not worthy of love. I can't, I'm unlovable. I'm undateable. No. Why are you taking on the energy of something that had two people involved? Okay, there were two. It takes two to tango. Now, some people are taking on with AI. That's just between them. I'm talking about you and I. Okay, it takes two to tango. So if you are taking on all the negative or the whatever energy that happened with that, we have to release it. Okay, that's why we're adjusting things. We're addressing it. Now that we know what it is, we can adjust. We can apply some things and let it go. But who develops a pattern? So it isn't random. Certain experiences create this. I always want to tap into that inner child. Okay, I want you to be able to just pause and say, when I was 10, I remember this happened. Or when I was in seventh grade, this happened. And I always go back to this type of scenario because of my nervous system. And I had to fight or flight in order to survive. Okay, so we kick into those childhood survival instincts from time to time in order to pacify a situation or get through something. But we need to get some adult instincts, okay? Sometimes we need to kick some people ass. We need to cuss people out. That's not the see. I'm not a licensed mental health professional, so I can tell you that cuss people out, cuss these folks out. So anyway, people who grew up in environments where they were frequently criticized, compared, critiqued, or given identity-based feedback. Not you did something wrong, but you are wrong. It whew, this parenting I'm loving and hating, but I'm loving this season of parenting where parents are allowing their children to express their emotions and are having healthy conversation. I don't want to say they're talking to them as if they're an adult or their peer, but they're talking to them with respect. It's just like, what made you feel this way? Why do you think? And like this one video, and I'm pretty sure I shared this before because it was just so good. This girl was just like, how did I know this was wrong if you never told me what was wrong? So you can't say I'm a bad child because you didn't give me everything I needed to know in order to be a good child. And sometimes experiences are created or happen for us to justify to have lived experiences. And so my at times my biggest gripe with people who had sheltered childhoods is that they don't get to experience much. And when the real world comes a knocking, they're running instead of opening the door to something that can be life changing. Anyway, stay focused. This is why I need scripts, okay? Because I will go off in the deep end and I'll be floating and just talking to myself. Anyway, so children of parents or caregivers who use shame as a discipline tool. You're so stupid. You're embarrassing. Why can't you be more like your brother or your sister? Like, I know y'all can relate to that. We just talked about shame in the Bible, in Bible study, as it relates to this book, An Unlikely Lent. And I think it was Barabbas and how he was shamed. I came to the lesson late. I'll come back to it, but it was about Barabbas and had to do with different characters in the Bible who normally in the Lenten story who normally don't get the attention they deserve, but every person role in the story has something to do with it. So I'll come back to it. Anyway, people who experience chronic rejection, me, socially, romantically, professionally, and internalize that rejection as a verdict of their worth. So, listen, I experienced rejection in a lot of ways in elementary school. I was rejected from the step team, okay? And I was rejected from, it was something else. Was it basketball? Well, I probably wasn't rejected. I probably just sucked. But it was, I've experienced rejection, okay? And, oh, but we love a redirection. Mm. We, this is churchy and I like it. But yeah, like even I was talking to Ebony and I was just saying how we're in a season of a reframe. All right. And a lot of people get stuck with the rejection. But when we reframe it, it's just like, and it's not bypassing or just like letting it's just like, let me see the whole picture. Okay, let me see the big picture and not just this one piece of the puzzle, but I need to step back and reframe and say, actually, this wasn't right for me. And I'm glad God blocked it. Case in point, I told you about my ragtime auditions, and I went and I was just like, I really want this. And then my friend booked it. He was just like, child, listen, this is crazy. I had to learn the show in 2 weeks. And I was like, my God, I didn't need that because I would have quit. I would have quit. My Broadway debut, I would have quit. High achievers and perfectionists who were praised for performance so intensely that any failure felt like an identity crisis or their identity collapsed. Okay, these are all forms of labeling and who develops this pattern. People with anxiety or depression, you and I, both conditions amplify the inner critic and make negative self-labeling feel more true and more permanent. Anyone who grew up being defined by a role in their family system. This is for my adults. The caregivers, the people who had to take on parenting roles at the age of 12 and 13, who were robbed of a childhood because they had to step up and do things. They could have had a two-parent household, but somebody probably strung out on drugs. Okay, somebody probably a prostitute. And they knew it was wrong and they wanted better for their siblings. So they had to step up and do things. They had to work. Okay. They had to help with the homework while they were doing their own homework. All right. So the responsible one, the problem child, the sensitive one, they never got to exist beyond that box because of labeling. They were put in this label, in this section, okay, and told, well, you're the perfect one, so you can only be perfect. You know how exhausting that is to live up to someone else's expectation as a child? So, when and how does this show up? The pattern across your life in relationships. A disagreement happens and you just think the conversation went badly. You decide you're bad at relationships. I'm a horrible partner. No. One moment becomes a mirror you can't look away from. In creative work, you get a rejection, a piece of a critical feedback. You don't get the engagement you thought you were going to get. You compare your work to someone else. Just the other day, listen, I do graphic design. I don't call myself a graphic designer. I've been doing this for 6 years and I don't call myself a graphic designer. Imposter syndrome. The other day, I was working on the graphic for my church's Good Friday service. One of the hardest flyers to make in my head because you have to fit all these headshots and the name and the church or what scripture passage you're doing. Your pastor's photo has to go on there. It's just a lot. And I'm just like, I hate making these. It doesn't help that I have to go find all the images. Okay. I have to find all the images, set everything up, and I give myself a tight window to work. This is me being a perfectionist. And I will use Claude AI to say, hey, how does this look? Just because it can give me an overall summary. It's like the spacing is great, the color palette is good, the font is good, the images are clear, blah blah blah. And I said, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for giving me this positive feedback and helping me overcome my imposter syndrome with creating these graphics. You know what Claude said? You have no reason to be an imposter. What you created with little to no help and no support is something professionals wish they could do. Claude, thank you so much. Like I needed that. But back to this. When you're creative and you compare your work to someone else's and immediately pivot from this piece needs work to I'm not a real artist, the work becomes a verdict on you. At work, you freeze in a meeting, you struggle with a project, or miss a deadline instead of addressing the specific situation. You go into full identity crisis mode. I'm a fraud. I shouldn't be here. Everyone's going to figure out I'm incompetent. Hello, imposter syndrome. We just talked about this. We'll come back to that though. In daily life, you forget to call someone back. My friend Theo was like, "You been MIA, bruh? I've been dealing with life. Okay, we in a war. I didn't ask for this. When my mother birthed me, I don't think she checked on my birth certificate. Must live through war. What is this? Okay, I went to school, college, grad school. None of those courses prepared me for war crisis management. Okay, oil prices going up, gas prices going up, and I'm just trying to stay alive. Uh, uh, staying alive. Okay, so of course, anxiety will creep in here and there. Sometimes I'll sleep next to anxiety because we don't know what's going on. But if I forget to call you back, if I get to text you back, don't take it personal. Double text me. I will respond. Okay? Send a voice memo because I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I just press play, put my headphones in, keep going. Yeah, people say you're a bad friend. You eat the whole sleeve of cookies. I have no self-control. There goes my diet. You don't work out. I'm lazy. These quick, casual labels feel harmless, but they accumulate. We devalue ourselves. We make ourselves seem unworthy. They become the wallpaper of how we see ourselves. Now, this is a long one, but how this pattern develops. Okay, so we're talking about the neurospicy and the trauma connection. Okay, when children experience repeated identity based criticism, the brain begins to encode these labels as true, not because they are, but because the brain is pattern seeking and authority responsive. A parent says you're so dramatic enough times, and your developing brain files it under facts about me. So, parents, teachers, faith leaders, bosses, watch how you talk to people, okay? Because you don't know how sensitive these folks' brains are. They listen to you, she's like, you so stupid. Am I stupid? Am I dumb? Psychologically speaking, this is called introjection. Introjection. You take externalized judgments and make them internal ones. The voice of whoever criticizes you becomes your inner critic. Okay? Childhood trauma, your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, thank you, gets wired to treat identity threats the same as physical threats. So, like more specific origins, criticism heavy homes, conditional love, not unconditional, but conditional love, bullying and social rejection, parentification and role locking. So, being frozen into a role of the strong one or of the difficult one teaches you that identity is fixed, a lesson you then apply to yourself in adulthood. Oh, then the last one is gaslighting. Okay. If your perceptions and feelings were consistently dismissed, you may have learned that your internal experience is wrong or exaggerated and started labeling yourself as too sensitive or dramatic as a way of preempting others' criticism. So now let's talk about something in my eye. Hold on. I got it. Okay, so now let's talk about adjusting and why shifting this matters. I'm holding your hand. If you're listening, I'm holding your hand, okay? So labels don't just affect how you feel, they affect what you do. Labeling yourself as something negative puts up this wall, puts up this force field, this trauma-based, anxiety-based, negative electrical magnetic field that separates you from your dreams, your heart's desires, the things you really want in life. It's like living in a glass box, okay? This glass box is you saying this is what I am, and outside is saying this is all that I could be. Break that box. Chip away at the box, okay? We're going to start chipping away at the box. When you've labeled yourself as not creative, you stop creating. When you've labeled yourself as bad at relationships, you stop investing in them. The label becomes the reason you gave up. Labels keep you stuck in a static identity when you are automatically a dynamic and growing human. Okay? The gray area. We have to learn to have fun in the gray. Okay? The curiosity and things, the unknown, learning again, getting back to new things, hobbies, those things, okay? Neuroscience has shown us that the brain is neuroplastic. It changes. Who you were then is not who you are now. The way you thought about things then should change by now as an adult, and you should look at them differently. This is why I have a gripe with tradition. Okay, tradition works as a foundational basis for things. Tradition should not be the way things are still going and operating because we've changed. Times have changed. Tradition served its purpose, you know? Now when it comes to food, hey, we can make some of the things a little more healthier. A lot of the foods that we our ancestors and our great 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 grandparents grew up on in a way were survival foods. They weren't looking at macronutrients or cognizant of sodium levels, protein intake, fiber, potassium, those things. They were just trying to freaking live. Okay, but once we learn and grow, I'm getting back to the episode. But once we learn and grow with the neuroplasticity and the knowledge we take in, we should change. We should shift. Okay. Your brain changes, it rewires, it learns. Labels are the antithesis, thank you, of that. They're you telling your brain, don't bother. This is just who I am. And I really want those people who have these negative personalities, the narcissist or the you can't tell me anything or this is just how I am because blah blah blah. I really want y'all to heal. Like I want y'all to be loved. I want y'all to have real friends and not be the bad girl clique that you think you have. Y'all fake as sorry. I don't want to cuss because my mama be listening, but your labels prevent self compassion. Okay, you can't offer yourself grace for making a mistake. If you've decided the mistake is proof of who you fundamentally are, shame is for people who are wrong. Okay, labeling keeps you in shame. Oh, but grace, my God, grace brings you out of that shame. Okay, ah. Relationship suffers. When you label yourself, you often stop showing up fully because you're afraid of confirming the label. And when you label others, you stop being curious about them. You've already written their story. Maybe that's why relationships suck. Okay, because you already labeled this person as toxic, trash, red flag, mama's boy, mama's girl, daddy's girl, whatever. And you're just like, no, baby, they probably had some childhood shit happen to them. And you labeling them and they trying to find love in you. But let's talk about imposter syndrome again, because I'm very vulnerable with it. I talked to my therapist about it because this is huge, especially for creatives and people in professional spaces. Imposter syndrome is essentially labeling with a veneer of success on top. Okay, you've achieved something, that's the truth, whatever. But underneath, you still got the label, I'm a fraud. I don't really belong here. It's only a matter of time before they figure it out. The label, I'm a fraud, is so sticky because it explains away every success. I got lucky and confirms every failure. See, I I knew it. It is confirmation bias in a blazer with a little lapel pin and a tie and a nice cologne. Imposter syndrome is especially common in people who were high achievers in environments where they felt like outsiders, first generation professionals, creatives who didn't fit the mold. And for me personally, I always felt like an imposter when it came to podcasting or graphic design or food content, because in my head, because I didn't go to school for this, then I am not authentic in this. However, okay, a lot of y'all didn't go to school to be parents. A lot of y'all didn't go to school to do other things, but your experience is just as important and significant as what you learned in the classroom. And I have to give myself grace with that. I have one, two, three, four, 7 certifications in social media marketing, and I still feel like an imposter sometimes because I didn't go to school for marketing and I don't have a degree for. I have 7 certificates, and I have I have the Google one, I have HubSpot, I have Pinterest, I have LinkedIn, I have Facebook. I'm working on AI. I have 2 from Canva, so that's 7. And I still feel like an imposter sometimes. But the external success never quite updated the internal label. The shift is competence is not the same as certainty. Everyone in rooms that feel intimidating to you is actually figuring it out as they go as well. This whole new AI thing, a lot of people have the confidence, okay? They have the delusion that they know it all. Ain't no way in hell these people know all the stuff about AI. And it just came out. I say just. Things like Claude Skills or Claude Shift or whatever it's called. Um, in my head, it just came out 3 weeks ago. People already got workshops and masterclass. No, they have time. Okay, they have time to sit there and create things to share, to make money off of, when you can actually just go and take the course. It's free. Someone take it with me. Take the Claude AI course with me. Okay, it's free. But knowing your worth, okay, this is how we're going to adjust to this label. Knowing your worth. My God. Knowing your worth isn't a mantra. It's not I'm enough on a sticky note, okay? It's not you are worthy on your bathroom window. I do love a sticky note though, but it's a practice of consistently refusing to let one moment, one opinion, one failure to define the totality of who you are. Reclaiming my time. So the trauma piece, if you grew up in an environment where your worth was conditional on your performance or your compliance, your ability to manage others' emotions, then your sense of self was never allowed to be stable. I'm sorry. But knowing your worth as an adult means building stability from scratch. Throw the old you away, baby. Okay, because we're building this from scratch, but vegan, because I'm vegan and I had to throw that in there. But this is brave. It's slow, but it's real work. Okay, and it's worth it because your future self deserves it. Worth isn't earned by achievements. Okay, this is the hardest thing that we as humans wrestle with, because we sometimes we need that physical, tangible award, that trophy, that plaque, that medallion, those things. Even for high achievers and perfectionists, it's hard for us to metabolize. But your value doesn't go up when you succeed and down when you fail. You're not the stock market. Have you seen that thing lately? Okay. Labels that tie your identity to your output are a form of self abandonment. So, again, childhood trauma, the labels you're carrying right now, the ones that feel most true, most shameful, most permanent, where did they come from? I'm willing to bet some of the people who put these labels on you are dead. They're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You are carrying their ghost with you in the present. Ashes to ashes. Let them folks go. No. 9 times out of 10, they came from someone else, a parent, a teacher, a sibling, a partner who said something in a moment that you turned into a life sentence. Your inner critic speaks in the voice of whoever hurt you. So when you catch yourself labeling, get curious, whose voice is that? Because it's not mine. I know my worth, okay? Did I decide this or did someone else tell me this when I was too young to know it wasn't true? The healing isn't about positive thinking. It's about reparenting. It's about rewiring that neuroplasticity, okay? Going back to that younger version of yourself, taking yourself on an artist date. Well, if you do the artist way, taking yourself on an inner child date, okay? And taking yourself back to the version of yourself who got handed the label and saying, that wasn't true. That was more about them than you. You were never what they said you were. That's the start of it. That is how we start reparenting and rewiring who we are. In therapy, okay? Therapy has modalities like um, something called IFS, Internal Family System, or EMDR. I think this, I don't do that. I do cognitive behavioral therapy, but somatic work also works. And these are effective methods for this. The inner critic isn't trying to hurt you, okay? I'm an actor, so I'm always talking about critics, but it was originally trying to protect you, but it needs to be updated. Not silenced, updated. iOS U. Let me write that down. I like that. Anyway, so section 3, applying. So how can we build tools, our toolbox to make this shift? Or what can you shift? I'm working on these notebooks, y'all, so we can make notes together. But again, go to Substack because we're finna dive in. All right, language. This is the first thing we can shift is our language. Language as practice. Start replacing identity statements with behavior statements. Not I'm so disorganized, but I struggle to stay on top of my schedule this week. Okay, we're still addressing the negative with like I struggle, but you're not disorganized. Okay, you're human, and things change. We have to shift. Okay, not I'm terrible at confrontation, but I found that conversation kind of hard. All right, I wasn't able to speak my mind because they brought something else, and I said, "Oh shit," I'm quick on my feet when it comes to conversations because it's just how my brain is wired. My Libra moon, I can think about everything at one time, but I didn't say you could. All right, but this is not toxic positivity. All right, it's accurate language. It's being human, and accurate language leaves room for change. Second thing, separate the action from the actor. You can think about something as a bad idea without being a bad person. Okay? You can have done something wrong without being wrong. Shame shuts people down. Guilt can motivate repair. Labels create shame. Okay? But specific feedback creates growth. Interrupt the label loop. Cut it off. All right? When you hear the label forming, I'm such a haha. Say, no, that's a label. It's not a fact. It's not true. No. You don't have to replace it with something positive, okay? Just name it as a story, not as a truth. That's the first interruption. And then practice some self-compassion. So across the things, for my people in relationships, when conflict happens, resist the pull to make a character verdict on yourself or on the other person. That conversation didn't go well is workable. I'm terrible at relationships. That's a label, and that's dead end. Practice saying what you need instead of performing the label. If you decided you're too needy, you've already labeled yourself and silenced yourself before the conversation starts. So, what if you asked for what you needed, okay, and let the other person respond to the actual request? Yeah. So, with others, when someone lets you down, hold space for it. Don't just shut down and don't and think take it personal, you know? He was thoughtless in the moment is different from he's a selfish person. Maybe they needed time to figure shit out. Maybe they're not as quick on their feet as you are. People are not their worst moments, and neither are you. So, if my creatives separate the critique from the creator, okay? People look at things differently. Some people don't like Timothy Chalamet. He's a great example. He clearly he don't care too much for opera and the ballet. Look how he's being dragged. He was just about to like I don't think he was gonna win at the Oscars, but here we are. And boom. So anyway, feedback on your work, even harsh feedback, is not feedback on you as a person or as an artist. Your work is not you; it's something you made. Okay, and something you made can be made better if it was bad. I know with me, if I see a graphic and I'm just like, oh, I could have did this better, and I see someone else, I'm like, I like how they did that. I like their use of white space. I like how they, use white as a base and not black as a base. There's room for growth. There's also two ways to do everything. When the imposter label shows up, I'm a fraud, I don't belong here. Try this. List 3 things you actually know how to do in your craft. Not 3 reasons you're talented, but 3 concrete skills. Get out of the abstract and into the specific. Okay, at work, when you make a mistake, practice the debrief instead of the verdict. Ask what happened, what can I learn, what would I do differently. That's accountability. Okay, saying I'm incompetent, that's not accountability. Okay, that's shame dressed up as an accountant. Okay, we're not doing that. If imposter syndrome is showing up at work, try this. I'm still learning this instead of I don't belong here. Because systems change, baby. Listen, my merchandise job, every time I look up, we're doing this differently. If y'all change one more thing at this company, I'ma flip it. But they're trying to do better. And I said, well, y'all gotta give us grace as we figure this out with y'all. Because if y'all write me up for something that y'all changed and I haven't learned yet, that ain't my fault. In your daily life, notice the casual labels, the throwaway ones that feel harmless. I'm so bad at this. I'm the worst. Oh, classic me, blah, blah, blah. Those are the slow drips, okay? That they can cause a major catastrophe on down the line. So when it's hard, the discomfort is real, okay? Releasing a label, even a painful one, even one you've carried for so long because that is how other people saw you, but it's never how you saw yourself. The reparenting, it is hard. It is, especially to my people that grew up in the church. Everyone who is in on this verge of I don't want to say dismantling the church, but like really deconstructing Christianity and trying to find their new self in the black church when it's so chaotic at times, and we have people who are pastors that shouldn't be pastors, but they see how much money they can make with being a pastor, and it's just it's hard. It's hard. Give yourself some grace when it comes to that. You're not the sin that happened to you in your childhood. Okay, it happened. You lived through it. You don't have to carry that label anymore. I give you permission to leave the label behind. Throw it away. Throw it away. Yeah. Go slow. You are not going to uninstall 30 years of labeling in a week. Start with one label. Just pick one, okay? Pick the one that's costing you the most right now, though, because we know our worth, okay? And if that label is holding you back, it's keeping you in that box I talked about, start chipping away at it, okay? Think of it as like a ice sculpture, and you're trying to The label is the box, but you're trying to create a masterpiece. So start chipping away at every piece of thing that is holding you from creating this masterpiece of your worth, of who you really want to be. Yeah, that should give you some sense of breathe through it, okay? Be patient with the inner critic. It's not your enemy, it was originally your protector. It learned that if you labeled yourself before others could, the rejection would hurt less. That's an act of self-preservation, not malice. Thank it for trying, okay? Hug yourself. I'm getting emotional, but hug yourself and say thank you. Thank you for protecting me all these years and all this time. You've done enough. I got it from here, okay? Woo! Getting emotional. Let me finish this episode before I start crying on here. So here's what I want you to do and leave with today. You are not the worst thing you've ever done. You are not the harshest thing anyone has ever said to you. You are not the label you started whispering to yourself when you were just trying to survive a hard season or a hard childhood or a hard day. Labels are not truths, they are habits. And habits, like identity, can change. The work isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally getting to be who you actually are underneath all the names you've been called and all the names you've called yourself. So here's one challenge this week. Catch yourself in a label just once and hear the voice say, I am such. And before it lands, ask, whose voice is this? Because it's not mine. Ask yourself, is this actually true? Or is it just a story that got handed to me a long time ago? And then take a deep breath and put it down. Let it go and release it. You don't have to carry it anymore. And if this resonated with you, slide in my DM, let me know, because this is real. And I want you to live your best life. Okay? So until next time, remember you are brave for doing the work. You are reparenting yourself one day at a time. So go take a nap. And until next time, keep adjusting. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you take something away to help you make the adjustments you need. Before you go, please take a quick second to share this with someone you care about. And if you can, please leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. For more information about adjusting or to inquire about being a guest, head over to adjustingpod.com. Until next time.